Chitheads, and welcome to another episode of Board Chitlist. I'm Leki, and this week I'm joined by...
Daz?
Is that a question?
It's an existential Daz.
You're definitely here, Daz. Still, it is past midnight. Tristan?
I think I'm at Sam.
I'm probably Leki, like I discussed. And this week we've been playing The Ancient World by Ryan Laukat and Call to Adventure, but we're going to discuss them in the other order.
Brilliant intro, Leki.
Thank you. I've worked on it for a very long time. All of 20 seconds.
Mixing it up.
You know it. Call to Adventure. It's a fantasy-based adventure game for 1 to 4 players, card-based, and it's basically a set collection. You've got a character based up of 3 cards. There's the character card, the
Origin, motivation, and destiny.
Ooh. And it's basically like level 1, level 2, level 3, or acts 1, 2, and 3. The game plays out, you've got a market of 5 cards across each act, and they get progressively more difficult. And you are casting runes to try and complete them. So the runes is like a clever play on dice chucking, isn't it, really?
Two-sided dice.
Yeah, so instead of dice, you've got runes. Basic runes are worth 1 point or nout. One of them will let you draw an extra hero card from an extra deck. And then when you've got skills that your character can have, intelligence, charisma, strength, all the regular sort of fantasy-based tropey stats, then you can start adding those runes in and bringing your score up. And you can also start messing with the dark arts and bring in these sort of dark runes, which if they are successful will give you 1 a success, but if they're not, they'll give you 2, but sort of plunge you into darkness a little bit, so you start falling backwards on a victory track and
turn evil.
You do turn evil to the point that it murders all your victory points at the end of the game, as I experienced.
And you pay not money, the experience points to have a go at those dark arts as well. So you're losing your money. Well, you're gambling basically, aren't you?
You are. Well, it's just a way of you've got to spend something to bring those runes into the game. Did everyone have fun? Did you enjoy it? It was quite a nice sort of light fantasy-based game. A bit different to the heavy dungeon crawlers we've been spamming in the past.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think the first couple of rounds, maybe even the first act, felt a lot heavier than it was until it sort of clicked. And then I was thinking, it's actually not that heavy. It felt like there was a lot going on early on.
Yeah.
All the different stats, and then the cards not only have those stats, but they had the extra ones, like you had the crowns and the scales and all these extra things that are points at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So early on, it felt like it was very deep. There was a lot more strategy and tactics, and then it suddenly sort of got into it a bit more, and it was like, it's symbol matching.
Yeah, all the rules for this game are sort of presented up front. Like, you can try and explain it as you go along, but by the time you've done that, you might as well have just spent 10 minutes like Tristan did explaining what all the rules are, what all the symbols mean, and then you go into it. And not a lot changes through the acts except how difficult it is to actually defeat enemies or,
And
get across challenges.
The reward is better, which is everything you'd expect. Really.
It's a fairly sort of linear curve. By the time you've defeated 3 cards, so you've done 3 challenges or picked up some allies and stuff, then you've filled up your act and you get to progress on to the next one. So it's, like you said, it's really straightforward. It's a good teach on this game. I think that's the verbiage. You can easily learn it in your first game quite quickly, and you don't feel like you've really missed out too much in those early turns. How did you get on with it, Daz? Did you pick up the rules quite quick?
Yeah, I thought it was cool when in terms of similar to Sam, what you were looking for at the start. It took me a little bit of time just to get my head around that, but once I did, it basically boils down to some of the cards are a challenge where there's a good or an evil. You get 2 options with each, and you have to sort of roll that sort of value. And then the other cards, I think, was it the one where you can get a mentor as well, where you just need to match a symbol and you don't do a challenge? Is that right?
Yeah.
You don't roll for them. You just have to have that symbol.
Yeah, so it'll be like if you've got an intelligence, then you can pick it up, or you can spend an experience towards it. And generally, the reward for that is quite low, but it fills up your hand quickly.
Yeah, you start sort of gaining different icons to give you different bonuses. So essentially, that's what it boiled down to. But then, amassing those icons and like working out which which route you're going to go, or which destiny you'll take, which is kind of dictated by your destiny card, which you're dealt with at the start, which kind of gives you bonuses for points which lean towards evil or good kind of thing. So it puts you down a path if you want to go good or evil in it.
Considering the character card draw for the what were they? The motivation, discovery, and destiny.
Destiny was the
Origin.
one, wasn't it?
Origin, motivation, and destiny.
Those 3 cards you put in the tableau, they're all dealt out randomly, aren't they, from a shuffle?
Yeah.
But they work quite well together. I had a student that was into dark arts and a sort of like dark destiny, and then needed to become like a high arcanist, I think it said. And they all sort of work together quite well. Like you can imagine this student in a basement of a library looking at the wrong books and sort of being corrupted. And it felt like the symbols and the sets that I was trying to match throughout the game were very much linked to my character quite deeply, even though they're just 3 rando cards that came out of a deck. So I think probably a lot of thought has gone into that. It felt nice.
The things you pick up along the way thread into the story, and somehow you interpret it how you want, but it kind of just works at the end when you look at it, and it kind of does make sense. Or you make sense of it in a way. But it was quite a nice sort of aspect at the end to look at what had sort of unravelled as you were playing.
I felt the opposite. Just play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Mine was a hunter, natural leader, who then the destiny was to get one of each of the stats. So it was one each of...
Yeah, you were hunting each of the sets.
But then as...
Hunting all the symbols.
So as a hunter was trying to get a bit of everything, not really focusing on anything, but then I ended up specialising in arcane magic towards the end. And then next minute I was fighting a gang and taking out a crime lord.
Yeah.
Those are your choices, Sam. You made that
They were
destiny
my
happen.
Sometimes it takes a while to, realise what you want to do in life as well.
Like you found that you guys found that your story sort of fed into what you were doing, and not necessarily choosing to, but mine felt very all over the place. And I took those actions. I chose what I was doing, so I chose the actions more than choosing the story. But it felt a bit disjointed almost.
Yeah, it wasn't just thematic.
It didn't flow.
Maybe it falls into place sometimes. I don't know. I've only played it once.
Yeah.
So maybe we were...
I think I probably got the advanced... Basically, I got the good card draw in that respect in terms of theme, because it felt like if it was a D&D character, it would be like a level 18 sort of cleric or wizard, and you'd be feeling like, you've done a lot here, you've really built the character up. Whereas you compare that to like Daz's overarching story, it was basically like an orphan child turned to a pickpocket and then became like a sea captain, which didn't seem as like bold, but it's still quite interesting.
Yeah,
Kind of like Aladdin.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. The picture at the start looked a bit like that, and it was turned good, raised an army. Came to people's champion.
As all good orphans do.
Which Leki then sacrificed the army.
But when we had the cards laid out, we embellished it and added loads of extra bits.
So it's
quite fueled our imagination, didn't it? Which was good.
It's quite a neat little point when like Tristan turned over. It's like, right, we've counted up all our points, but what we do now is we explain to each other how our story worked.
It's such a cynical thing. We could have easily skipped over that, and I sort of said, well, let's do it. Because you could do it in 7 Wonders. You could sit at the end and go, my civilization built this much wood and had this many battles. And anyway, this game obviously encourages you to do that. And it gives you 3 or 4 words of flavor text per card for you to string a story together. And we could have quite easily just totted up the victory points and moved on to the next game. But I thought, let's just take a second to see what actually happened. And I sort of spat my story out quite cynically, but then by the time it got around to yours, Leki, we had this dark path of trailing into the dark heart of evil, and then by Daz's we've got a whole story about, like you say, an orphan growing up and sinking ships and stuff. And
we've got a script for either a musical or Disney film. I think.
Daz has optioned the rights to his character's arc. There's going to be a blockbuster movie next year.
Balladin. It's going to be cool.
Tales of the Dazrabian Nights.
That's going to be a t-shirt.
But the story, I guess that story stuff, if you miffed about losing badly, you get onto the story bit, and I've forgotten who won, actually. what we ended up with.
You forgot that I won?
It was completely irrelevant who won or who lost.
It's a learning game. It doesn't matter that I won.
It's about the adventure.
It's irrelevant that I won.
It's not relevant at all.
We could just skip over the fact that I won.
What did everyone think of the sort of overall? Shh. There's no
Leki,
real
who lost?
losers. There's no.
And do you find that your loss was made more emphatic by the fact that you were evil, whereas the rest of us were all good? We all turned to the good side.
God, yes.
Pursued evil
Well, it told me
like you had an agenda before the game.
Like a loser.
My motivation was that I was ravaged by darkness. So I was like, okay, then let's go with the darkness.
You didn't think to try and cure it?
To be honest with you, I didn't look at a lot of the cards. I probably could. Basically, my character was set out from the beginning to start on one point on the darkness track. So to go along with your character, there is a darkness versus lightness track. If you push it all the way up to the light, you can have 8 extra victory points at the end of the game. If you somehow mismanage it and delve straight into darkness, you actually get -4 victory points. Above that, there's 0. Above that, there's 4 dark victory points and then 2. So there's a sort of a fine line you can tread. You can go sort of semi-bad, a bit like Deadpool, and do some naughty stuff and get rewarded for it. But then if you get that extra bit of bad luck on a night rune draw, then it'll knock you down to 0, and then you accidentally drop down again, and then you've done. You can't use night runes anymore, and you've actually hurts you quite a lot. Yeah, and even though it knocks off 4 victory points, that's actually quite a bit in the long run of the game when everyone else is scoring 8 positive.
Yeah, 12 points difference, isn't it? Straight off.
Huge, absolutely massive. And I took it with a bit of a pinch of salt, thinking it's not going to affect the game that much in the long run. And it affected it massively.
Because we all maxed our...
You maxed it out, yeah. There's we alluded to it before, there's 2 hero decks of cards, a light and a dark, and they'll do stuff like you can get an extra victory point for playing one down, and they'll give you an extra rune to play with, or they'll say you can budge your night darkness versus lightness tracker up 1, which is what you guys were all doing. My destiny card said that for each card that I've got in hand that I don't actually play, I can get a victory point for that at the end of the game. So I was relying on getting loads of those, but because of it, I wasn't paying too much attention to what was on those cards, so I wasn't really playing them all. I think it had 1 card that would let me boost the track anyway up towards lightness, so it wouldn't have saved the game for me. It would have just meant that I lost a few less victory points, but it would have still made a bit of a difference maybe. But I was playing my own game, and it didn't quite work out. But you can't blame the game for that.
Well, I noticed that you didn't play any cards down at all, did you? And I think Tristan played about 10.
Didn't, yeah.
Yeah, you mean like the hero cards?
Yeah.
I think I played down 2 by the end of the game, just because of what had come out and couldn't play them down and didn't get any more draws. When I started looking through the ones that I did have, and when it came to playing them, you could see there was a clear, if you took the darker cards, they were ways to screw over your opponents or benefit from their demise or corrupt them, whereas the light is, thematically, it was more like, rewarding you for doing well at certain stats or boosting you a bit more. So you could see that there's an advantage, especially early on, to maybe go slightly towards the anti-hero route and just start like attacking your opponents or benefiting from them struggling, to then at the end flipping it to get all the victory points from being in the light.
Yeah,
but it involved a bit of strategy and timing.
You would have to spam them early on, because the further up the lightness tracker you go, then they'll quickly they become unusable. Like your character is too worthy, and it's like, I'm not going to stoop to this level to use like these underhanded tactics. It's exactly the same reason why all of a sudden I couldn't use any of my decent hero cards, from the light side, because it was so evil. I couldn't even comprehend helping people out in the end.
Just like being alive.
Yeah. For a pretty straightforward set collection and dice chucker, there's an awful lot of choice involved in the game. Rune casting.
We should probably point out as well, we were playing a competitive mode. There is a full-on cooperative mode as well, where you have like an adversary that you're all working together to defeat.
That'll be quite interesting to play, but I think I probably prefer co-op. Competitive, sorry. I just liked the fact that we're all racing each other. But yeah, like I said, there's plenty of sort of like free agency. You're not just limited to finding a card, playing the card. If you, after a certain set of symbols that you might not be able to find immediately, you can start getting rid of cards from the market by spending experience and going up against different cards that come out, if you can't afford to, basically if there's absolutely nothing that you can actually try and challenge, then you can get rid of one for free. So there's that little catch-up mechanic that if your engine's built quite badly or you just had the bad luck with a draw, then you can sort of catch up again without too much of a penalty. If you go up against a challenge card and you lose, that disappears and you just don't get the benefit from it as well.
You get experience, don't you? There's like a commiseration.
Yeah, and these occasional cards that'll come out that'll say, if you've lost this round and you can buy me dead cheaply for an experience, and that'll sort of like stop you from getting too far behind in terms of having enough cards in to level up on your acts.
So I think there was another nice catch-up mechanic because Tristan, you were first player and you were getting a card every turn. So you were leveling up the axe quicker. So it was inevitable that you were going to fill out your tableau before anyone else could. It was quite apparent early on to me. But what I noticed was because you were revealing those acts, it gave every person after you the chance of getting better cards onto their tableau.
I think the way it plays out, everyone's almost guaranteed to get a card. It was only a couple of turns in the whole game where someone didn't actually get the card that they were after.
Yeah, what I meant was you were able to open up that act early, but you'd open up like the second level with the better cards, and then I had first dibs on it.
Right, I get you. Yeah,
and
so
then
it's like the first person to get there makes it available for everybody else.
But they're
harder to get as well. The Act 2 and Act 3 cards are more difficult.
So you're sort of leveling up faster, and you're likely to trigger that end game of getting 3 of each act or 3 in each story part.
Then once that's triggered, everybody else still gets another turn. So you all have the same number of turns.
Yeah, completely. What it felt like was you were rushing ahead. You were going to be able to complete all yours, and I'd have only got 4 out of 9 cards or something. But even then, when you were able to get them, because you'd opened them up, you had a lot more options available to you, and I was able to get those better cards into my tableau. So I had more like Act 2 and Act 3 compared to you had more Act 1. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I never went back to Act 1 after Act 2 had been unlocked, even though I hadn't got all of mine. So I was always going above.
Your first stage where you could get 3 cards in there, you had all under Act 1, didn't you?
I'm gonna.
You unlocked it first.
Yeah, but it would have been like 1 card, and like Tristan's Act 1 card might have not had an extra victory points on it.
That's true.
There's no guarantee that your Act 2 card or Act 3 card would have.
Are you saying you went for an Act 2 card straight away the turn that I unlocked it?
Yeah.
Right. And
so then I was sort of putting higher level
like
cards.
leapfrogging sort of things.
Yeah.
Right.
They are achievable, aren't they? They're not like completely out of reach.
So
if
that
you
was what I was trying to explain. It's a good catch up because although you're getting ahead, you unlocked it.
No, you
faster.
explained it very well. I'm just taking a while to catch up to this conversation.
Anyway, yeah, I quite liked it the way it worked that way.
I also wanted to talk about the presentation on this game, which I think is absolutely lovely.
Oh, the artwork is amazing.
Cards are massive.
They're like tarot sized, aren't they?
Tarot sized.
I think are they bigger than tarot size cards because they're wider as well, and the art is full bleed on the cards. There's a tiny little bit of flavor text, which it's not even flavor text, just like the title of the card, like Thrill Seeker or Settler, and then some of the challenge cards will give you a decision. So you'll get a title like Dark Colossus, and you can either climb the Colossus or bring down the Colossus, and you just choose one of those options.
Yeah.
And so it gives you a super threadbare, like generic fantasy story, and then
but it's
you
super
string
evocative.
it together as you go. Yeah, and it's got this gorgeous artwork. It does do the thing that Seven Wonders does, which gives you this gorgeous artwork, and then the gameplay is, and now you've seen it, slide it under your card so you'll never see it again for the rest of the game, kind of thing. But I don't think it matters too much because at any given point, looking at the table, you've got all of the act cards in front of you, which are gorgeous. You've got your own character cards. The character board that you've got is nice and
it's super
thick,
hefty.
and the graphic design super clear and simple, and there's quite a few icons and everything. But once you've played, literally, I think it was by the second round, everybody was just going. No more rules needed, like you mentioned earlier. But yeah, the fantasy package, the cover of the box, the idea of just crafting a hero, claiming a destiny, and getting it all done in like an hour.
Yeah, it's a good
super
sort of
light
midweight game
fantasy experience. Yeah,
yeah, but not too light. But like Seven Wonders, there's like there's a
there's
lot you can
meat
sort
on
of
the
read
bones.
into it, and playing it again. Obviously, we'll get different character cards, which will affect it affect the gameplay quite a lot. Because once you know what sort of sets you're after and what how your engine's sort of built, you're told everything that you need to know in the first turn, as long as you're paying attention to what your destiny card's telling you and what your character's set up for initially.
Yeah.
You can just keep chasing those VPs.
And there's a lot of cards in the game as well. So like when we dished out those 3 cards that make up your character, first of all, that's 3 different cards that are going to shape your destiny. But also those are from big stacks of cards. So each time you'll get a different combo, you'll have a different destiny, which will fuel your end game scoring points.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variety in that. And we didn't really get through the act decks either. There was no chance of them running out.
Oh yeah, we didn't even scratch it, did we?
Yeah, there was the 2 hero deck and anti-hero decks. I think you probably see all the way through those throughout a game. We emptied the hero deck, and because you were the only one doing the anti-hero stuff, like that was less touched, but you still... And there's duplicates in those as well, so you do see what they do.
There's a variation of each. There's like 4 different cards in each deck, and then it's just like variation of a theme, isn't it? So it's like one will be like
this will give you extra charisma,
exactly,
this is extra wisdom.
Yeah, like drop one up down the lightness track, drop one down it, that sort of stuff.
What did we think of the rune casting compared to like dice rolling or card?
I was going to say, has that been done in gaming before? I've not really seen it.
The last time I remember seeing it was in Runebound, a fantasy flight game, and I was dead cynical about it. I was like, "Oh, it's just use dice, you know what you're doing."
Yeah.
And now it's like a thing. It's like a rune casting game.
I liked it. It was like I felt a bit like a Viking doing it. It was like from a fantasy theme, it works. I suppose really you're mitigating the luck from dice chucking. Really, like you're taking something that could be like a 1 in 6 chance of succeeding, or a 2 in 6 chance, and you're making that 50-50. And it was a bit like, you're talking about the dice you get in like Street Masters and Brook City, where you always get something from it. This felt a bit like that. The basic dice, most of them, it's success or fail, but then one of them lets you draw a card. And when you've got to the point when you get in the extra dice from like intelligence, they'll all like one will score 2 or they'll score 1, and you take the bad dice, the baddie dice, the dark ones. They always score. You'll get 1 success, you get 2 success. There might be a penalty for getting the 2 successes, but you're guaranteed that 1, which could make or break a particular challenge. So it's nice to see, rather than just having here's some dice. It's a mechanic. It's luck based. Just go for it. It's a bit of a twist.
Yeah, and what one of each set, so there's 3 dice runes. Should we call them runes?
Runes, definite runes.
So every stat of all 6 has 3 runes that's the most you can cast depending on how many you've collected. And the third one of each one is like a powered up version of it. So it gives you more successes, or on a miss, it allows you to draw cards.
Yeah, or get a
so even then you're not missing out at all. You might have not beaten it that turn, but you're prepping for the next one again.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of doing that.
Yeah.
And on a 50-50 to have that in there as well, it's pretty cool.
It's good. I think it's probably more of a novelty than like a groundbreaking sort of mechanism, but it's not breaking.
I think it
anything.
works in this though.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. No one
and
got
it's as much
frustrated.
fun, isn't it, shaking the runes up as rolling a bunch of dice?
Yeah, and it's easier to get about 20 of them in your hands and throw
Yeah,
them out on the table, and also because they're not like fully 6-sided. They don't roll so much. They're a lot flatter. They're a lot heavier on one side, so they'll just like hit the deck, bounce, and hit the deck again.
Yeah, we had no floor scrabbling for dice, did we?
No, exactly. If this was like Kingdom Death and we were trying to roll that many dice, it'd just be everywhere. You need a dice tower.
New mystery dice turning up in corners of the room.
Yeah.
Where's this extra one?
One thing that I do like about this game, based on interrogation of the box, which is a sentence that we've never used in Bullshit List before, is there's 2 expansions coming in 2019. Or there looks like there is anyway. So even just if that's just extra cards.
Yeah, it's bold, isn't it?
It's
the first printing of the first. What is it? The first print run of the first.
So this is So the edition we've played is edition 1, print run 1, which hopefully people will buy it and send it to a second print run or a second edition.
I think they must just know from the Kickstarter. Yep, it's done enough. We're definitely going to run it to.
Yeah, we've got a few hundred copies left over.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the. There's some foreplanning. You could be cynical and think, well, they should have put the expansion material in the original game if they have had it. But costs and businesses, and they don't. They might have only half developed it. So You take your cynical attitude elsewhere.
And until the expansions do arrive, I'm keeping a box insert, which I never normally do.
Oh, the box insert's really nice.
Works. It's like a Stonemaier game one way.
Yeah,
all the pieces go in the places.
It comes with its own complete storage solutions, which stops you from having to go to B&M and buying your own.
I've got all these hobby boxes going to waste now from Home Bargains.
It's terrible. What are you
It's a
going to do?
logistical nightmare.
You'll have to start putting
These well put together games.
start putting your needle and threads
Buy
in
some more
there.
games to justify it.
Go on.
So is this a board chit list recommends then? I'd probably go out and play this if someone was moving away and I didn't have access to it anymore.
I'd like to play it again. We played it with the family, and it was fun with them as well. And I think it'd be a great one for the start of the night. Another light one before we get into a big dungeon crawler or Eclipse or whatever. And it's, for me, like you said, Seven Wonders sort of scale of just light enough. I don't know if you'd want to play it again straight away after you played it, but it wouldn't put you off, coming back next week and doing it kind of thing. You couldn't just sit there and like play a campaign of it kind of thing.
No.
But definitely. It's fun to play. It's great to look at. The rune casting is lovely. The rules are dead simple. And I don't think we'll play it again now without having a quick recap of the story at the end of the game, because it was a nice little narrative touch.
Yeah.
It was,
and I'll be honest, I didn't really get that much of the flavour as I was playing. It was definitely after the fact.
Yeah.
When we're like, so this is what's happened kind of thing. There was a couple of moments where you're like, I'm going to take on the Dark Lord. And then you're just like, I got a 7. I've done it.
There's one or two encounters that I went up against just because it sounded cool,
Really?
rather than...
Like you just threw the caution to the wind and were like, that sounds better, I'll do that.
Yeah, I was still looking at like what sets I was after or whatever, but if given the choice, I'm going to try and fight that demon army. It felt a bit like, Evil Dead 3. It was cool. Yeah, it's Army of Darkness, isn't it? It's the best.
And the Shadow of the Colossus one. Well, it wasn't a Shadow of the Colossus, but you could
It was
climb.
the Colossus.
Yeah, the options were you could climb
You
it.
had to do it, didn't you, Daz? That was your destiny.
So I think I failed climbing it, so then I just
What does
stabbed
that-
it in the
what
leg.
Does that make me then if I was the one that took over a gang and became a crime lord? Like, if this is
You're
reflections
playing
of
a
ourselves.
mafia.
Answer to your question.
Yeah. The crime lordy one.
The mafia expansion.
I'm a criminal.
Yeah.
Although you're a really good-hearted criminal because you ended up like with the least amount of corruption, didn't you?
Yeah, just because you weren't an
was
evil
a good
magician. There we have it. Call to adventure. Then, if adventure calls, you answer it.
Call back.
Yeah, reverse the charges. I don't know. We need to work on this metaphor. So whilst we do that, I'm going to send Sam to the
Tagline will not be
writer's
appearing
corner.
on the box.
So we washed Call to Adventure down with the Ancient World. What's the Ancient World, Tristan?
Second edition.
It's the second edition of the game.
It's the upgraded first edition with second edition components, actually.
Worth it.
Worth it, yeah. So it's a Ryan Laukat game for a start, for 2 to 4 players, where you play as a civilization that's been hounded by really, really big things that have been eating your people for centuries or decades. And you've been on the run and you finally found a place to settle down, and now you're going to fight back and do an attack on Titans. You're building your little empire, and it's a worker placement game, and the second edition upgraded components do improve the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not just the components. There's a few little tweaks as well to rules.
Yeah, a couple of rules tweaks.
Which make it better, I think.
So in the old version of the game, you would build your empire. It's a victory point game. You're collecting different coloured banners. The more banners you collect, the more points those banners are worth. And you're building a little empire. You're building little wheat fields and growing them bigger and getting big armies.
Yeah.
And then you're fighting the Titans back that are attacking your villages and stuff. But in the original, the Titans just sat there and waited for you to kill them. They didn't really interact with you. Whereas in this one, it's a very simple change. Every player starts with a Titan in their town, and there's going to be one every round attacking your people. So the whole motive for the game is changed rather than just sitting there and collecting victory points.
Yeah.
You have to do that, but you also have to couple it with defending your people, building bigger armies, racing each other to get the best resources to take down the big bads. Ryan Laukat, the designer and illustrator, has also gone back and re-illustrated every single card to make them all sexier and betterer than the original version.
He just can't help but show off, can he? With his
He's a showboat.
impressive artistic ability.
And it's awesome. I actually kind of wish I'd bought the second edition game rather than just the upgraded components, because there's little changes to the board he's made as well and stuff. But it's fantastic. Like all of his games, it looks beautiful. It's all his artwork. It's quite sort of impressionistic, but on the table it just looks gorgeous, very bright and colourful.
Yeah.
It's really evocative, very much like his style fantasy, kind of cartoony.
Yeah.
But gorgeous to look at. I really enjoyed the first edition. I really enjoyed this version, and it's one of those games that I'm always happy to break out and play. And that's even after tonight when I had a horror show of a game. Literally played the worst worker placement gameplay of my life.
Just kept shooting yourself in the foot.
I just got into a bad run. I got tackled by Titans early on, and that was it. My people were starving. Everyone went to rat shit. And it just got worse every round. But I still sat there and vicariously enjoyed watching all of you build your own empires. So I had the worst possible gaming experience of any game ever, and still enjoyed it. So that should speak highly. But that's me going on with myself. It's time for you to.
It was a good game. It was a bit more head scratchy than Call to Adventure. There's a lot going on the board. It was nice to actually play this game properly, because I think in the past, me and you have played a round or two just to look at the game whilst we're waiting for Sam to arrive for a game night, and then we put it away and then played whatever we were playing that night. So it's good to sort of follow through post turn one and see what actually happens when the Titans roll up. Everything's just nice. There's good weighty components to the game. The mechanics are just streamlined, really. There's about
just
four
a worker placement game, isn't it, really?
About 4 actions you can do, isn't there? Like put a civilian down, buy some, send your army off to fight, or pass. And everything just seems to have sort of a couple of different layers. So you send a civilian out to do an action. If there's ambrosia there, you can kind of claim that first. Everything feels like it's a race. If you're going to be the first to get the military, you're going to be the first to try and fix stuff and get the first player token. And I always felt like I was a step behind with this, because you had the Colossus sort of breathing down your neck. I was like, right, I need to get my army out now and kill it. But before I do that, I need to get a scroll so I can actually afford to buy the army. But then Sam's bought the army before me, so I think I'll be cheeky and I'll buy a market, a building, and then I'll realise that I forgot about the money that I needed to actually pay the military in the first place. So you've got to really be on top of it. And there was a few times in the game where I just sort of miscalculated the resources I needed, and it sort of bit me on the bottom, which was good though. You have to be really have your wits about you.
Yeah, the starting Titan is kind of like a ticking time bomb going off. So as well as the placement and that mechanic going on, you're acutely aware that at the end of the round you're going to get smashed by it unless you have a go at it. So it's quite interesting that you were saying that wasn't in the original version, because to me that was
part of the game,
really cool idea, and it kind of maybe put 2 or 3 turns aside to sort of build your empire, but then 2 of them building the army and then attacking. Aside from that, there's 3 other Titans that are constantly on the table. Is that right?
It's like a Titan market.
All at different levels.
I didn't really interact with it, as you say, if that's what it was like on the first version, because I didn't really pay too much attention to them. It was more like clearing your starter Titan to protect your town.
I was the same. I was trying to focus on my own territory. So when Titans were coming out to me at the start of each round, I was dealing with them, with the exception of one round where I just had to just roll the dice and hope for the best. Whereas Sam was spamming the Titan decks to the point when we all thought he was probably cheating. At one point, I think he used military about 15 times in one round. I don't know how he could afford it, but he did. The bugger.
I was using magic.
It was magic. Magic soldiers.
I think part of the reason I was playing like that was because I was used to the first edition. So the first edition was much more of a race. So you'd have 3 decks of Titans out for each level, easy, medium, hard. In order to get those banners, you had to be beating the other person to kill those Titans. So you were trying to level up your armies fast enough to beat them. So you could quickly get through a deck, take out the little ones to collect all the banners, which is your point scoring at the end. So I was still kind of focusing on doing that to get through those. So I had the Titan in front of me. I was like, wow, this is a 7.1. I've got 12 fight here. I'll go for one of the big ones first. Then I'll see if I can deal with that. Rejig my army. And then by retiring your army, what you do is you pay for your army each time. Once you're paid for it, you can't use it again until the next turn you've paid their wages. But what you can do is you can use it and then recruit a new army and retire that first one. And what that means is you can then pay for that one you've just bought. So attacking a Titan is a free action, but to recruit an army costs an action. So I was able to attack a Titan. I keep calling Titans. Are they Colossus or what are they called in this?
Titans.
Cool. So I'd be attacking a Titan with the army I had, retiring them, which they were then contributing their stats again. So they might give me an extra dagger or arrow on top of the other one that I'd just bought, and then I'd be able to use that again. So I was getting through 2, sometimes 3 Titans in a turn by doing that constantly. And I just sacrificed like all buildings, just stopped, didn't build anything, didn't really worry about expanding my populace. I was just going all out fighting. I think that's how that kind of worked out well, because I was just collecting banner after banner, and at the end I had...
Yeah, you had mad bonuses, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had an awful lot of sets going on.
But it felt... I really like this version. I think it's a lot better than the first, and we played the first one a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely... It just feels more polished, but not just the fact that the Titan's attacking you, the components. So each civilization board is so much bigger and better now. It has like a tracking system for how much gold you're earning each turn and how many buildings you can make. It also, we didn't play it tonight because it was your guys' first game, but you can flip those over and have unique player powers for each different race that you can play as, which definitely
is
next time. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
And you don't see everything. You know, there's so much variety, and so you're going through the market deck, and it's getting cleared down every turn, and then halfway through the game, the market deck is removed from the game, and you get like the secondary market deck, which brings in a whole new bunch of cards, which are bigger, better, more expensive. And in this second edition, there's now a third market deck that's in play from the start, and it's super expensive but higher scoring victory point cards. Which, you know, if you're in the game, I wasn't, but if you're still in the game at the end, those can be game changing ones that really rack up the extra points and give you bonus VPs and stuff. And I think there's a whole stack of extra cards in here, I think, and I think some of them have been polished, some of the effects have been tweaked and stuff, but the overall effect is just, it really feels like a good second edition, a really nice upgrade. And it's just a really enjoyable game. It's simple to process. You've got 3 workers to begin with. You can get up to 5 workers by the end of the game, so it's not like it doesn't get out of control. Each worker has a skill level, so they can, like the higher your skill level, you can block other people from using your actions. In the first game, that was a straight up block. In this game, in the second edition, you can just pay a gold now to use the same space, which neuters it a little bit, but I think it's fairer because getting completely cop blocked from doing an action is just frustrating, I think. And this way, it still punishes you, but it keeps you options open, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's still quite difficult to actually generate the gold. So spending a gold, although it seems quite frivolous, actually, you know, can be the difference between deploying your military or not at the end of the turn.
Yeah.
So I couldn't afford my military by like 2 in the final round, which really frustrated me. But, you know, it's just the way it happens, really.
And it's a big pain, right? Because if you can't do that one, if you can't take that Titan down, it's not only that you've wasted the turn kind of thing or the round, the Titan is then going to stomp you, roll a bunch of dice.
Yeah.
It will destroy your buildings, potentially eat your gold or your people and all that kind of stuff. And that effect can be hugely negative in what is an otherwise quite Euro type game where you're placing workers, you're collecting points and everything else.
Yeah.
You've got this rogue element of these monsters rampaging through your cities, and if you don't tackle them, it can get out of control. That's certainly what happened with me. I think I only managed to tackle the first 3 or 4 and then fell so far behind, you know, that all the people were dead and it was just chaos. But I knew where it went wrong, and I was compounding it by, you know, not pulling back from that position, but
not dealing with the situation.
Just blink. Just have more babies. It'll be fine. Have more people. Oh no, they're all starving too. But no, it's just, and it again, like with Call to Adventure, just looks great on the table. It's got the lovely fantasy theme. I think maybe it's kind of on that lightness level where you're not really drilling down into the storytelling, but everything that you're doing, every action that you're taking is like, cool, I'm building an army, or, you know, I've got wheat fields, or I'm attacking a Titan, and it's just nice, simple effects. It's not medieval farming or taking horses to, you know, or cows to sell cows.
It's
not
like,
there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, it's like slightly higher than viticulture, isn't it, on the complexity scale, really? You know, it's not
I like
the hardest game to
viticulture,
learn,
but it doesn't have Titans attacking your winery.
Yeah, the theme's amazing.
Yeah, there's quite a range of Titans as well with crazy names and
like Hill Stompers.
Yeah,
and
Calamity Vulture.
Frostwolf.
Yeah. And the starting titans for each player are really nice. They fit into the player map perfectly. So the background art will mix in with the clouds, and like you've got this weird serpent coming out of the sky at you.
Right from the start,
good
they're
fun.
watching you, aren't they?
They are, right. Yeah. But the first one also, it's a bit of a gimme. Like you start off with basic military, which will give you like 3 attack points. The Titan requires 3 attack points to defeat it. So all you got to do is make sure you have 2 gold left over at the end of the turn to defeat it. But it still makes it feel like a choice.
It's
like,
lulling you into
don't
a false
have
sense
to.
of security for the next round when the next Titan that comes in is going to be a rogue element that you don't know how to deal with it.
You can only score victory points really by collecting sets. So each Titan's got a banner associated with it, different colours. You can get those banners as well by building buildings, by bringing some sort of discovery cards come into play. So discovery is the wrong word, but like settlement cards, and they all build up. And if you get 1 of each type of banner, it's worth like 2 victory points. You get 2, it's worth like 4, and then it's 8, and then it's up to 22 if you've got 6. So that curve's really sharp. So you have to really like knuckle down and make sure that you build up at least 1 set of 6 to start scoring points. And if you've just got loads of banners, but you've only got like 1 of each or 2 of each, you end up being quite far behind. And in a couple of like worker placement games, you rely on like, right, I'm going to get a victory point for like gold at the end of it, or from having this scroll, I've got some ambrosia, so I might have like 1 victory point for each 2 of those. You get nothing. If you've not spent it before the end of the game, you are done. And it might come into a tie break, but it won't, because Sam's killed all the Titans that exist.
That's kind of the point of the game, though.
Yeah, it's nice.
What do you think of the graphic design, Daz?
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, as you say, the sort of impressionist kind of art style, bright, lovely contrasting colours throughout.
There was a couple of moments where you were like, oh, what does this action do? And it'd be like, oh, that adds, like you can explore and you can draw 5 cards when you explore, and that one just adds a 6th card. And straight away you'd be like, oh yeah, because it's like, once you sort of process the iconography, it's all really self-explanatory.
Yeah,
it's
dead
sort of
slick. Yeah,
too heavy,
and it's just got a little curvy arrow if it's a reoccurring resource that you get at the end of each turn. And then the banners are they stand out. You can see them at a glance because that's ultimately what you trying to plan what to get through.
Even down to like the military having the reward on the front as to what it'll be when you retire them.
Yeah.
So you can quickly see like which one you want to retire, so you know what bonus it'll give you afterwards. That's quite nice instead of having to turn it over to have a look.
Yeah, everything's
it's a small thing
in front of you, isn't it? All the information that you need right at hand.
Yeah. Especially when quite often those cards are covered in coins. So if you were having to flip those, it'd be a pain in the neck. But just to have it just in the top corner, it doesn't cost anything to bring them in other than dedicating a man to training someone up.
And it's quite satisfying counting up like all of your swords and arrows, isn't it? And you're like, I've got 12 attack. I can take down anything.
Or everything, in my case.
Until you can't.
Or nothing, in my case.
Yeah, and it like the great design, it all just goes towards it being, as a game, it was really fluid, wasn't it? There wasn't any sort of long dragged out turns. Like there's a few where, like Discovery, you can make a choice out of 4 cards, but then you can pass on to the next player whilst you're choosing. It went along a nice pace because of that.
The AP starts to creep in towards the end, but it's not really anything that's shocking. You're not waiting 15 minutes for Sam to tell you that he's finished his turn 10 minutes ago.
I don't think it outstays its welcome either. In terms of the playtime, I think it was about 90 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. But it rattles through, and I don't think you'd want it to be too much longer. The ending kind of creeps up on you, but if it was longer at this complexity, I don't think it'd be as satisfying. So I'm thinking about his other game, Empires of the Void, which is a really nice game actually, but it's longer and it's kind of this sort of complexity level. Whereas if you are going to go longer on a game like that, you'd probably want to play Eclipse or something instead that is meatier and big beefier experience. Whereas this is just long enough so that you feel like you've had a good, you built a civilization, you've destroyed a bunch of Titans, you've racked up a load of points, and you're done. It doesn't go too long where you're like, I'm still building stuff and still fighting Titans.
Yeah.
But it's not so short like Call to Adventure where it feels like that's just a start of the night game. We'll play that and then we'll play something big.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
It was one of those games where at the end of each round, I felt like I needed 2 more workers each round, regardless of where I was at in the game. And I think that's just
a sure sign of like a decent worker placement game, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Can't do enough.
Yeah, and because some of the worker placement games that I've played recently, they do seem to be over quite quickly. So I was a bit concerned. Were we going to be ploughing through this? Because we went through the first couple of rounds quicker than I thought. But it turned out to be a little bit lengthier, and it gave you enough time to have a good crack at the Titans, have a good crack at like building your city, your empire, getting the workers out. So, and there was no way that anyone could kind of end it early or sort of race ahead.
And you made a proper dent, didn't you? Your Civ was like really quite big by the end of it. You'd taken down loads of Titans. I think yours had been a really competitive score if Sam hadn't romped away with all the
I could see. I was waiting. I mean, it's the first time I played any version of this game, and I kind of just went with your advice of just like take down the Titan that's in your sort of citadel. So I just kept trying to manage those, but it kept kind of working out. So somehow I just sort of chugged along, and I never really had a disaster moment. I was kind of waiting for it to happen. But by the end I thought, well, I'm doing all right here. Then Sam came along.
I was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Cheating the whole way.
Was it not just a case of playing Snap with the banner cards? That's what I was doing.
Yeah, but you have to pretend that you've not used your military 4 times each round in order to do that.
You see the coins racked up on my military.
I think as with Call to Adventure, who won is irrelevant. You know, the fact that I won Call to Adventure, for example,
lost
is irrelevant. We don't need to dwell on, those victories.
We're still writing our end stories for Ancient World, aren't we? Tristan's going to publish that in a blog.
Optioning the rights.
I suppose before we sign off, the question really to you and Sam would be, if someone owns the first edition, would the second edition be such a requirement, or the upgrades to the second edition components be such a requirement that they should just go out and do it?
I think trade in the first edition to get the second edition.
Just get rid and start again.
I've had one play of this, and that's how I feel on it straight away.
Well, if you can get the upgrade pack, just go for that. But
I didn't even realise that was a thing. So
yeah, that's what this is. It's still the first edition box, first edition board, and everything. It's just the cards and playboards and stuff.
In that case, do that. Or buy the second edition.
Or buy the second edition, yeah. But no, it's definitely, if you have the first edition and you're like, no, I'm happy with this one, you are kind of missing out, because the extra stuff is definitely worth it, even just for the illustrations alone. But the gameplay is just, it cranks up a notch.
Yeah, I think
significantly.
I think it's a very separate game. I think going, like I said earlier, the first edition is more like a race. The second one, because you've got the Titans right in front of you because the rule changes, it's instantly more tension.
Yeah,
and
it didn't happen in this game either. But there's also the tension of, if you don't take out your Titan, somebody else might, and that can disadvantage you because you've kind of missed out on the opportunity to get those extra banners yourself.
I did think about taking out some of your Titans like a few times, but I thought
you would have helped me if you did.
That's why I didn't do it. I figured I could just take out one of the other Titans and get the banners for that instead. But there was a few points where I thought about it, where I saw like you had a 5-cost Titan. And I was like, well, I've got enough military to take that out, but I've also got enough military to take out a better one, like a level up. So I was like, oh, you can deal with your own one. I'm taking the bonus points here. But yeah, I think I do much prefer this second edition after only one play. I can't see why that would wane at all.
There you go. So if you've got the first edition, it's well worth getting the upgraded components, or just, getting the second edition. It's fun. Before we go, I'd just like to remind everyone, if they can head to iTunes and subscribe, leave us a review and a rating, that'd be lovely. You can join us on the Board Chitlist Facebook group. On Facebook, just search for Board Chitlist, and we're available on Twitter at board_chitlist, and that's all the places where you can find out about us. Probably listen on SoundCloud as well.
You can also comment about the Leki's tasting cows.
You can. If you go to Facebook, you can, just like James did. Good on you, James, pointing out how badly researched Great Western Trail was, but doesn't diminish how fun the game is. So, we're going
to take it out on you in the next game of Spartacus, James.
There we go. So until next time, I'm just going to say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.